Hello, this is a series called Better Call Saul, where we discuss what is currently possible that if it were impossible, or what is currently impossible that if it were possible, would fundamentally change the way we do business as real estate agents. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about what are you going to do if your business drops 20, I guess more like when, your business drops 25%. Here with me today is my co-host, Rachel Real, broker and owner of Rachel Real Estate in Chicago. Good morning, Rachel.
Good morning, Jen. How are you?
Good. She has been a
Good.
real estate agent for 18 years. She's been on the Pro Standards Committee for 8 of those years, currently serving as the third past chair.
Right. 3-time past chair. Right.
The 3-time, that's a lot. She's
Right.
passionately nerdy about all real estate rules.
I am. And with us today also is Saul Klein. And Saul is the godfather of real estate technology. Saul has been licensed to sell real estate for over 47 years. He was an original team member of Realtor.com and the creator of NAR's technology certification program known as ePro. Saul was personally responsible for the first 500,000 listings to be displayed to the public on Realtor.com, spearheading listing syndication, which is the distribution of your listings to the consumer over the internet. So welcome to Saul, and let's dive into today's topic. What if your production dropped by 25%? What adjustments would you make to your business?
It's more of a when, right, Saul?
Right, yes. Well, right, yeah.
Probably right. Yeah, more of a win,
Yeah.
huh?
What's our
Right.
context? What can you give us what the article that we were talking about?
So remember, our theme is trying to discover the future.
Right.
And the way you discover the future is you ask questions to which there isn't an answer to yet. So a lot of people say, well, that's an impossibility. Well, that's it. That's what we're exploring.
Right.
What's those impossibilities or those future possibilities? So we always ask what's currently impossible, and if it were possible, would fundamentally change the way you do business, or what's currently possible, and if it were impossible, it would fundamentally change the way you do business. So, I read a lot of different things, and one of my favorite real estate economists, Lawrence Yun from the National Association of Realtors, known Lawrence for many, many years. I follow just about everything he writes, and so he has his finger on the pulse. And in this latest interview with him, that one of the things that stuck out was, and it always kind of sticks out, is how many homes get sold in a year.
Right.
This is a big deal. We always talk about this. How many homes get sold in a year? Good years, bad years, up years, down years.
Yeah.
How many homes get sold in a year? And the answer
is been fairly consistent.
And the answer is always 6 million.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the answer. It's 6 million. And that means you're a real estate agent. 12 million sides, right?
Right.
6 million transactions, potentially 12 million sides. And so that's the size of the marketplace. And so you carve out your piece in that marketplace. And it didn't matter what year it was. For many years, I was in front of lots of people and they say, how many properties? It's always the same. It's about 6 million. It's like, what's the average age of a realtor? It's like 55, right?
150.
So, yeah. So it's like, so how many? It's like 6 million. However, and there was an acceleration through COVID for a number of reasons. We could talk about that, but we won't.
But what goes up must come down.
Yeah, so it got up to like 6.49 million in last year, 2022. Now, what they're looking at is year over year change. And the projection is, and this is what kind of got me to look at this, year over year change. This is not necessarily reality. It's measured and projected.
Right.
Is we're going to go from 6.49 million to 4.71 million.
And that's big. Like
that's a huge difference.
Yeah. Like around what percentage is that?
Well, the way I would do it is I would subtract the 4.71 from the 6.49, and that gives me, I'm just going to estimate like 1.5 and 1.5 out of 6. I'd say we're looking at about roughly 25% fewer homes being sold.
Right. Which if logic follows and you say, okay, if about 25% of homes are being sold, that means your production is likely going to go down 25%.
It's going to be affected also.
Equal,
right? Yeah. Right? So what do you do?
So what are you going to do? Are you prepared? Are you even thinking about the fact that if the number, I say, well, all real estate is local. It is, but pretty much, I bet, no matter what area you're in, you're going to have fewer sales for a number of reasons. And so play with whatever number you want, but what will you do to make up that income that you won't yet because the number of sales will decrease. And in your planning, and November is a great time to plan, December a great time to plan for next year. As you set out your budget for next year, as you project your revenue for next year, and you project
I
your
feel like we're making a
expenses.
pretty strong assumption that that's happening in the first place. So
What, you mean that people do these things?
I mean, here's the thing.
Right,
Like, I
right.
think part of this is at first you have to know where you're at. Because if you don't know where you're at, which requires like, what are your expenses? What is your income? But I find that most agents are spending their commission check before they give it out and before
Right,
they
before
pay
they even get it.
taxes. Yeah, before they even get it and before they have to do
You're trying to introduce reality into this situation.
reality has no
Well,
bearing.
and that's no fun.
I'm just trying to give you the statistics and the facts behind it. Now, yes,
Right.
the fact is, at least as I recall, I always have to start things that way now.
Yeah.
As I recall, is that for the most part, the people in real estate aren't good savers. It's too inconsistent of a revenue stream for not all of them.
Yeah,
but
it's
for
because
most
the
of
lead
them.
generation is inconsistent. Like the consistency with which you lead generate is exact equal to the
If
consistency.
that's all the same. Of course, I'm not an advocate of lead generation. I think
Oh,
that the whole thing over the last couple of years has really been distorted, and maybe it was necessary because of COVID, because you couldn't do the networking you could before. I'll give it that.
right.
But
Right.
to me, real estate's a relationship business, and it still is. And I still think that, and I've never really seen all of the numbers. Even the people that tell me they got these great teams and they close all these deals, and nobody ever tells you. And because you're telling me that they can't even keep track of their own finances, yet they can track all their internet leads from
No,
lead to close. Ain't
not
no way.
happening. Anyway,
No way.
so if the logic is, the logic is sound and all things being equal, if you're going to do 25% less business, then I think the market that you're in, you're either competing on price or you're competing on value. And it's like, where do you want to be? Do you want to be for me, it's like, there's always going to be somebody cheaper. So competing on price is dumb. If anything, go up. Right?
I got a great story on going up. I don't want to tell
Tell
it to
me.
you here, but I mean, no, I can't tell you. But it was, it was like, okay, we're going to provide this service. It was an ad marketing service to a big international company. We're going to provide this service, and what should we charge? Oh, let's charge. This is worth at least $10,000. At least $10,000. Yeah, but if we ask for $10,000, it won't get past the bottom checker. It won't get it's not enough money.
Right.
So we need to add something to this. And so we thought about it. We said, let's make it $250,000 for 6 months. So we made it $250,000 for 6 months, and we got the contract.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Oh, it was a
All
long
the
time
more
ago.
reason to go up, because if you start going down, there's always somebody that's going to be less.
The race to the bottom is there. Let's be honest.
So, okay. So if we say, okay, that makes sense, but how do I compete on value then?
Yeah. So we kind of talked about this before, but I want to bring up this phrase. Most people really don't understand it, can't explain what it is, but it's creative financing.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And creative financing is about just thinking about the financing and figuring out ways and solutions to make deals happen.
Right.
And so what makes deals happen is financing for the most part.
Right.
And so where do you get Well, you go to the marketplace, and we've been spoiled. Real estate professionals have been spoiled for the last 12 years or so, because all you had to do is go get a loan, and there were low interest rates, and that you didn't have to figure anything out. You just go get a loan, and you just did your business that way. And so now you got to actually do what you get paid to do. You got to be a consultant. You got to go out there and kind of look. And so the first place that I would look is at existing financing. So creative financing means finding buckets of money.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it means.
Right.
How do we find buckets of money? Well, let's find a big piece first. Now, over the last 4 or 5 years, lots of people have bought houses. Lots of people have refinanced. There are great loans sitting on these property, low interest loans.
Right.
And some of those lenders might be willing to allow somebody to come in and take over that loan. Some might not, but you never know unless you ask. So there's something to know about loan takeovers. And so I would study the different types of loan takeovers. Rachel, we talk about subject to or assuming.
Exactly.
What types of loans? And so start to gain expertise in how people can take over existing loans. That's valuable.
Exactly.
Now, so when you can go in to talk to a seller and you can say, here's the marketplace and here's interest rates, and that's going to reduce the number of buyers. But you know what? You might have a good loan on your property and we can look at it. Might even make your property more valuable. There might even be more value in it because
you'll cast like a wider net of buyers, right? So like, I think what you're talking about is just you're talking about being a consultant. You're talking about knowing more than you used to, than you used to have to know, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And so,
you need to tap into that knowledge base of all these things that we've been learning over the years about financing, about assumable mortgages, all those, dig back into the vault of the things that you learned during your pre-licensing, course. Yeah. And then get all the current information on those things, because those are things that,
I don't know why I took that pre-licensing course. I never used anything they teach.
How many feet in an acre?
Right.
But I also think you bring up a good point, Saul. You're figuring out creative solutions to solve a current problem. And this can be it doesn't have to necessarily, it could also be like, how do you generate leads? How do you find buyers? How do you find buyers and sellers? And when you find them, how do you get them together? I mean, it's in all aspects of our business. It's holding your marketing dollars and the money that you're spending, holding it accountable, holding what you pay your broker accountable. What are you getting in exchange for what you're giving? Your hard-earned money. And they're not going to tell you it's okay to pay 25% less.
Yeah. So let's go find deals that other people aren't going to. So we want to recapture the 25% that we're going to lose, and we're going to recapture it from the lazy agents that aren't going to be able to figure out that there are other ways to transact business.
Well, a lot of agents are going to go straight.
I was just going to say, speaking of the decrease in agents, or what you're talking about here, and agents, the newer agents not having this wealth of knowledge that the seasoned ones do, a lot of those people that have gotten licensed in the last 2 years are not even going to make it through this renewal cycle. This is when, you get a lot of those agents that just are like, you know what? I don't know if I want to stay in this now, because they always jump in when it's great. So the last 2 years, it's been great. So there are so many of them have jumped in, and then this is about the time where they're going to start jumping out.
Yeah. Well, Jennifer, I know where Jennifer, you're going to. The optimist real estate agent says, I don't have to change my business at all. I'm going to lose 25%, but 25% of people are going to drop out of the business. So I'm good.
Right. Exactly.
So there's no problem. But I do think that people are already starting to compete on price. And so if that's happening, you have got to increase your value. And the way to do that is to be more creative, and not like in a creepy, not like in a way where you're
not in a slimy way.
Not slimy, yeah.
In an educated way.
What we're talking about will build trust and confidence, because you demonstrate expertise. You'll demonstrate that you understand real estate finance better than your competitors do. That's a value. And then you take it another step. You say, well, let's analyze your situation. How much cash do you need to pull out of this? Are you using it for to buy another home, or are you going to put it in the bank? Yeah. Maybe you don't need all. Matter of fact, maybe if you take all the money now, there's a tax consequence. Maybe you can split it up over a number of years. You can do an installment sale. There are some benefits, and maybe you can get more interest on this, right?
Yep.
Are you struggling with what is the ideal path for you? What's next for you? There's so many options to try to figure out, and there's so many different ways that you could take your business, but it's all pretty confusing. So our coach John Kitchens, came up with a short little quiz that will help you figure out the ideal path for you. Go to realestatecareeraccelerator.com, take the free short quiz, and figure out your ideal path. That's realestatecareeraccelerator.com.
We just dealt with that with a property that I'm buying, because the seller didn't want to close for tax reasons until next year. And I was like, well, do they need the cash? Because we can also do it like installments. That way their capital gains is like not, maybe, I mean, we have to talk to the accountant or whatever, but like the capital gains is not so bad. Or are they going to roll it into another property? You could do a 1031. Like, what's going on, right? And a lot of agents, when you start talking about this, their head starts spinning and you're like, oh no, you're in charge of people's largest asset and you know nothing about money.
Yeah. Nothing about money, nothing really about real estate or other than one way.
But I
Right.
also think like for us, like knowing that this is happening, one of the things that we've done is really look at our expenses and say, okay, what are our top 3 lead sources? Get rid of everything else. Maybe you only really, I always say you really need like 2, but your top 2 or 3, depending on how much business that you want to do, and get rid of everything else instead of looking at the shining objects, and like triple down on those top lead sources. So like for me, it's phone calls. So we have to spend more time doing it in order to get the same amount, right? And so then adjusting that in your calendar. I don't know, Rachel, what are you going to do?
Well, I think this is the perfect opportunity to take your current client base and your current sphere of people and reach out to them and try to explain your value proposition. So there are 2 different tools that we have as realtors. One is the difference.realtor, and that is a website that you can go on to. Requires your NAR login, but it gives you all kinds of tools, marketing pieces, all kinds of different things to help explain to the public your value.
What
So
is
it gives
it?
you scripts, it gives you the difference.realtor.
Okay.
And then the other one is competition.realtor. And that one is a public facing website that you can share that explains to the consumer the value of using a realtor and what competition in the marketplace, how that's good for the consumer. And that was kind of born out of the couple of lawsuits that we're seeing right now that are working their way through the court system. So those are both really great resources. So I'm going to definitely take a deep dive into those 2 websites, especially the one that gives us all kinds of different information and items of value to be able to share social media posts, scripts, all those things to be able to help relay that information to our clients.
So,
That's good.
yeah, NAR's got great resources, right?
They
Tools
do,
right
yes.
now, right? Always got
Yep.
great resources. They do a great job. I know a lot of the people, at least I used to, still know some of the NAR staff, and they all very professional, do a great job, and they prepare this stuff for people. And not as many people use it as should, has always been my opinion.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. And this has got a whole zip file that I just downloaded here, and there's got to be, I don't know, gosh, there's a whole bunch of different things in here. Conversation starters, email signature banners, social media posts that are animated and static, social media covers, and all kinds of different things in here. So it's a great, great
good.
resource. Yeah.
I think too, during this time, this is a good opportunity to kind of like, it's like winter, you like clean out your closet, right? So this
Right.
is like the good opportunity to do that and simplify the business, because our business can get
Absolutely.
really complicated really fast for no reason, and it adds 0 value.
Yeah.
So
Right.
get rid of the stuff that's not adding value.
Yeah, and here's your
Right.
opportunity to demonstrate expertise in areas that people just aren't willing to take the time, right? And so
Right.
going through a zip file of that can take a lot of time, but you know what?
Oh yeah,
It'll make
there's all
it,
kinds of great stuff in there. I mean, this is the time where you can sit, you
You're
can
gonna
go
have
through all that stuff.
25% more time.
Yeah.
Right. But you can schedule all those posts on social media in advance and kind of plot out a calendar, sit down for a couple of days, put that all together, and then you're done for the next couple of months.
Or you
Yeah.
can hire a VA. That's
You
what I
could.
would do.
Yeah, so the big point here is that the market's changing,
Yeah.
Right.
right? The big point. So when the market changes, people who list and sell real estate.
Well,
have
those
to
million
change what they
houses
do.
that we did more than normal were pulled from the future. They weren't like, where would,
Yeah.
think about where they've been coming from for the last 10 years. We've been pulling from the future. At some point, the future is going to run dry,
Right.
Yeah. So again, an opportunity to demonstrate that expertise. So we go back to everybody should put on their list that it's important to study. If you're going to take a listing, study the existing financing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that should be a part of it. And
How
that's
do people buy houses? What are the ways that people can buy houses?
yeah.
Well, and here's another thing you can do right now too. I mean, you've got lenders right now that kind of their business also abruptly, slowed significantly. Same with attorneys. Schedule a lunch with a lender, a lunch with an attorney, but schedule a lunch with a lender where you can talk about all of these things, where it's coming from somebody who really just knows this stuff in and out, and
Right.
can give you all kinds of talking points, give you flyers, give you social media posts that you can share. I reached out to a lender the other day to come up with a post that says, hey, here's the price of a house today, and here's what it was last year. Here's the interest rate differences. But if you were paying $50,000 over asking price last year
Right.
versus what you're paying this year, here's what your difference in monthly payment's going to be. It's not as bad as you think it is.
Right.
And then that will include all of the required disclosures for compliance and all those things. But it's marketing for both people.
Ugh. So
you're going to see new. You're already seeing different types of adjustable loans. So there's
Right,
something
right.
that's something people should learn about. Now say, oh, it's not enough of a spread, or they're not. You don't know what they're going to do, and if
Right.
if customers hear about it, they might ask you. That's what you
Right.
want. Or if they don't
Absolutely.
ask you, then you prompt them to ask you. I mean, if
Right.
you've heard about it, I want to tell you about them. They don't work for you, or
Yeah.
they work, right? And just to be able to
Right.
have that conversation now is
Yeah.
something that not all agents can
Well,
do.
and most lenders right now, I know the last few that I've talked to have said, hey, you know what? You date the rate and you marry the house. So date the rate, get the house under contract, buy the house, and then when the rates drop next year or the year after, whatever it might be, most of these lenders are saying, hey, if it's within a certain amount of time, we'll refinance you at no, with and waive our lender fees.
Right. And
Well,
there's the
to get your
assumption
payment
that
lower.
you're not going to like lose your job, or like nothing's going to change in
Right,
that regard,
right.
right? But like you have no
Sure.
control. Yeah.
But
But I think, like,
that's a challenge any day of the week.
So
Yeah,
what you're
exactly, all
talking
the
about
time.
though are lenders getting creative. That's
Right.
what they're doing. And as lenders get creative, if you're a real estate person and your future depends upon financing, you got to you got to learn what they're creating and putting into the marketplace so you can
Exactly.
talk to people about. Even if nobody uses it, we don't know where it's going. But if the lenders are getting creative and the number of sales are dropping, then new methods of financing, or not necessarily new, but alternative methods of
To bring
financing
them back.
become.
Right. Exactly.
Well,
So I
and if you
think,
use these next month or two to use the time that we have that's kind of in a slow market and into the holidays and
Mhm.
prior to spring of next year, where hopefully things will open up a little bit more, use this opportunity to educate people with educational type of posts and educational emails so that by the time spring rolls around, A, you're top of mind, and B, you've given some information of value and
You're the
proven your
expert.
value.
Yeah.
Right. And you're the neighborhood expert, and you've got the value there that might make them reach out to you when it is time to sell.
Yeah. So I think my takeaways from this conversation, and everybody knows the market is shifting. Nobody, what do you
Right.
do?
It's no
One,
surprise.
Yeah. Yeah. One, educate yourself on financing. Also, creative ways to do financing, creative ways to get leads and deals and things like that. Also, simplify your financials and simplify your life. And anything else?
Yeah,
Check out the NARs.
clean out your file cabinets.
Check
Yeah.
out the website addresses that Rachel gave us,
Right.
because
Yep.
there are lots of great assets and
Tons of
tools.
great.
Now, a lot of
Yes.
agents hire people to do things, but a lot of people still do these things themselves because that's the kind of business they have, and they have to do it themselves, and that's
Mhm.
great. They've got tools that will help them, and not enough
Yeah.
people take advantage of.
Well, Rachel, if people have a referral for you in Chicago or they have a question, what is the best way to get hold of you?
Best way to reach me is by cell phone at 630-542-8688 or via email at rreal@dealwithreal.com.
Awesome. And Saul, if how can people get a hold of you?
Saul at bettercallsaul.realtor. Saul at bettercallsaul.realtor. That's easy enough. Or they can go to
It
the
sure
Data
is.
Advocate. Click on the blog. That's where all the current stuff is. They go to the Data Advocate, click on the blog tab, and we try to
Nice.
keep up with as much stuff as we can. We curate information. So I'd like to read and study with my partner John Riley and Terry Murphy, and then we try to regurgitate for you in a way that you
Can
makes it easy.
understand it. Well, and
Right,
two, I think like
exactly.
all of your stuff too, like you're all over social media. And what is the Facebook group?
At Real Talk is our Facebook group, Real Towns Real Talk. And link, you can find me on LinkedIn and Twitter, all those places where you would expect, right?
But I think
Right,
the point
exactly.
is too that we all read a lot of stuff, but the context is not there. And what you do is you add the context so we can fully understand like what is really the issue, what's going on, and what does it mean? Has it happened before? What was the result of that? And that's what's missing from a lot of this news feed.
Yes.
We
Right, the
say
historical context.
yeah, text without context is pretext,
Exactly.
right? Is what we say. So most people don't, they get bullet points, bullet points. And really, if you want to get a feel for what's taking place, I say every event is a dot. And so as you read about these different events, you throw them on the board, they're a dot. And then how good are you at starting to string these dots together?
Yeah.
And the more
Exactly.
historical background, often the easier it is, the faster you can start to draw the conclusion.
Well, yeah, because you've literally seen it before.
Yeah, bring the dots
Right,
together. So we try.
Awesome.
Exactly.
Well,
So yeah, so check out the difference.realtor and competition.realtor. Those are
Awesome.
the two websites. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Have a great rest of the day.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Everybody.
What we need right now is a source for great leads, and I found it. It is called Pipeline Pro Tools. So About 90 days ago, I booked a demo with them. And in that demo, we reverse engineered my business. We figured out how many leads we needed to get in order to get to the closings that we want. And they gave me a playbook to use in order to get that. So I've been using it for 90 days. We've gotten 12 qualified leads, and about half of them are already under contract or closed, which is great. And it is right now my number one source for my best leads that I'm getting. I love this thing. I'm about to ramp up the number of leads that I get with them as well. So, and you might think it's expensive, and it's not. So I was looking for something that's very inexpensive, like affordable to everyone, but also generated great leads. We don't want crap leads. So what you do in order to get this, because I called them and I wanted to partner with them because I was like, this is exactly what our audience has been looking for. So they set up something specific just for us, just for Fight Club listeners. So you would go to pipelineprotools.com/Fight Club. And then you go to the demo, and the demo will show you how many leads you need in order to get the number of closings that you want to get. And then they will give you the playbook that I'm using, my number one playbook for getting leads. And then you can use it too, and we can have happy closings. So go to pipelineprotools.com/Fight Club, book and go to the demo and get all the leads. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a podcast.